It's important to think about structural planning, so let's hear about organisational forms and policies.
When you're applying for grant funding, they will often insist that you have certain policies in place, often to do with equality and diversity, financial handling, things like that. So it's good to have some idea of how you will put together a policy.
I had access to Spectrum and the user-led organisation project, and they were very helpful, and they gave me templates which they allowed me to adapt for capable creatures. And I found also that Southampton Voluntary Services were very good in giving us policies and allowing us to adapt them. I think that's where the using of other voluntary organisations and your networking come in and are very important.
I think marketing is really important. Think about your overall plan and write your marketing strategy within that.
When people ask us, do I need to be an incorporated group, or what kind of organisational form should we take? Do I need to be constituted? Obviously each group's circumstances are slightly different, so you take it on its individual merits. But most often the advice we give to people is don't rush into that decision, because before you do decide, you need to be really sure what kind of activities you're going to be involved with, how you're going to operate, and also what you expect your main source of funding is going to be. And in the early stages, you don't really need any particular form, because what you're doing in the startup phase particularly, are fairly straightforward things. So don't require you to have any particular organisational form at all. So we usually say to people, don't worry about that at the beginning.
You don't want to get tied up in bureaucracy. So I think for me it's always about making things as simple and as straightforward and as light touch as we can, so we can just do it without having to jump through hoops.
We were incorporated in May the 12th this year. So that was after 4 years of being an unincorporated association. Now we're 6 months into our legal entity, being a proper community interest company with a large membership, and we're very pleased that we're doing this. And we found when we became registered, people should have taken us seriously before, because we were doing a good job and our accounts were in order. But since we registered as a community interest company, people have taken us a lot more seriously now.
Us coming to the decision of being a charity was sort of taken out of our hands, and I think this is why it's important to do research as well, because I discovered that under English law, to be able to train assistant dogs, you have to be a charity.
We've chosen to set up as a co-op, which isn't a common model for disabled people's user-led organisations. And we've done that because we really liked the idea that each member has an equal say in how the organisation runs. And it's very democratic. And although it hasn't been used much by youth-led organisations, it's a model which has existed for a very long time and has been shown to be very effective.
So it's useful to start thinking about your organisational form, but take your time in deciding. Don't rush, research and ask others what has worked for them. You can also find out more information on the different choices in the list of resources.
It's a good idea to put together some of the key documents and some policies you might need. Which ones will depend on how your group is set up. For example, most groups will probably need some kind of constitution and documents for recording income and expenditure, and if you are working with service users, you will probably also need a safeguarding policy. This doesn't have to be complicated, and the list of resources includes some templates that you can use, but make sure to adapt them carefully so they're relevant to you. Exercise 1. Thinking about organisations you know, try and guess their organisational forms. Exercise 2. List 5 essential documents or policies you will need in the next year.